All right. Chapter 1 in Apple in the Middle. School, not my favorite thing, especially the first week back after a glorious summer off. I always dread the first assignment. The teachers always have us write what I did over summer vacation. Seriously, teachers, this to us is the kiss of death. When you assign that paper, and you always do, we have to hide the fact that most of us did nothing. Most kids can't afford to go anywhere. And even if I won the Nobel Prize for the world peace, hey, it could happen. Why am I going to spill my personal life to a teacher I don't even know? I can't help but compare my life to a giant game of keep away, with me always being in the middle, running back and forth between two things, never quite catching anything. I call it the ping pong effect because you're the ball and nobody ever wants you in their space. Have you ever felt like that? Never really belonging anywhere, but trying your darndest to run between two lives only to find you're always stuck in the middle? Well, that's the Reader's Digest summary of my life. Apple in the middle. Did I tell you that I'm Apple? Yes, my name is the same as a fruit. How I got that name is coming later, I promise. I'll get to how I spent my summer vacation story later, and the story behind my name. I promise I will. I'm nothing if I'm not honest. First, you should know that I tend to have some minor old habits. For one, some might call it a phobia, but I call it common sense, that I will not step foot into a cemetery. There's just something about stepping and hovering above decomposing bodies. Nope, won't do it. What if a bony skeleton hand reaches up and pulls me under? It's really all about staying on this side of the turf. Cemeteries smell kind of funky too. EDK. EDK. Plus, I'm afraid that a dearly departed may want to exact a little revenge. Another particular habit of mine is that I love asking people odd questions. It's not that I need to or want to ask the questions, but it's a tick. It's almost like I get a thought in my head and it can't stay there. It can't stay in there quietly. The questions just pop into my head, and when they do, I just blurt them out. It may sound weird, but sometimes when I talk to people, I get this hazy vision of them in my head. Usually it's some image of them doing things. I don't have any reference about them and can't figure out why I get these visions. And they usually get me in trouble, of course. Once I was talking to my high school English teacher, Miss Catterwall, and an image of her popped in my head. Miss Catterwall is one of those teachers who are book snobs. Book snobs can list every title they've ever read, and they know every author from A to Z. They also love to make you feel inferior if they see you reading your horoscope in the newspaper. Hey, I need to read horoscopes. I'm an Aquarius, by the way. To see if I'll meet my dream man today, or if I should wait before making big decisions. As I'm asking her about an English assignment, I start to get a vision or mental image of her in a bathtub. Don't worry, she has bubbles up to her bulbous nose. And she's reading a book and laughing to herself. So in the middle of English class, while all the normal kids are working on a writing assignment, BTW, I really hate to write, I blurt out and ask her, "Do you always read comic books in the bathtub, Miss Catterwall?" Let's just say that didn't go over well. A book snob would never be caught dead reading Calvin and Hobbes. I told you, I have odd habits. But I can't help myself. It's like I have no filter on my mouth. Whenever these pictures or images pop in my head, some stupid comment pops out. It's like having a really bad case of diarrhea of the mouth. I wonder if there's a Pepto-Bismol for loose junk escaping my mouth. This quirk of mine does nothing to fill my social calendar. Just for interest, sometimes when I talk to people, an English accent stammers out, or maybe an Australian shrimp on the bobby may come out of nowhere. I wish I could say that my friends think I'm the weird but lovable goof. I can't say that, because I have no friends. That's right. Sob, sniff, tear, drop. Maybe people are afraid of my exuberance, odd questions, and spotty Russian accent, so they stare at me whenever I pass them by. I'm pretty sure I see sympathy looks too. I do this because it's better to be singled out as the weird foreign kid than to be known for being the weird, freaky local kid. I don't have to worry about losing any friends by acting odd because well, always feel out of place. Never have really had friends and am even shunned by my little brother. I use my talents for speaking with accents and take on the pretend role of foreign exchange student. My high school is so big that it's impossible to know everyone in your grade. This solves my problems and gives me a reason for my lackluster personal life. If I am in fourth hour lunch making my way to the lunch line, I may accidentally bump into people, preferably juniors or seniors, who don't know of my existence and say, "Oops, sorry, I'd better check my shrimp in back at the boats, mate." The bewildered looks they shoot back at me read, "Hello, too weird. Wait, I detect an accent. Maybe there's a reason for her bizarreness." With my brown hair, mossy black, and brown mud eyes, I can slide into numerous identities. Maybe during the Monday meatloaf lunch hour, I'll be a whispery waif from Ukraine. Or on Tuesday with tacos, toxic smell lunch day, I'll be a Latin or a Latina from an obscure Spanish speaking country. I feel sort of bad because one poor sap I tried my Spanish accent on actually believed that I was from a country called El Burrito. And these are the kids that will lead our country into the future. Yikes. But I figure it's better to be a weird foreigner than a pathetic loser. Looking on the bright side, when you're socially invisible, people don't realize you're watching them. It's sort of one of my favorite pastimes, people watching, especially when they have no idea you exist. Sometimes it's good to be unseen, which is why I like people to watch. I can do this anytime, but it's especially fun when I'm in math class with Mr. Markman. By the way, Mr. Markman is obsessed with the scent of the whiteboard markers. Not sure if I want to know anything more about that. So his back is always towards the class. You may not be able to see him, but you can hear him taking deep, halting breaths as he scribbles notes on the whiteboard. Last month I got in trouble because I accidentally called him Mr. Marker Man to his face, but that's another story. So during his class, I have a back row corner desk, which is a prime spot for viewing the high schoolers. I get a glimpse of different groups of kids and get to peek into their lives. You know, all groups. They're in every school since the time of immortal. Since time immortal. The jocks, or as I call them, the grunts, because that seems to be the only response anyone gets to questions they ask them. The ultra pretty girls, also known as twofers, because they make every one syllable word into two. For example, if I tell them their shoes are so last year, instead of saying what, the twofers will say what? The geeks, or as I call them, the geeks, and the motorheads, who know nothing about the 19th century British poetry, but can dismantle and reassemble a 1956 GT faster than you can say blue collar career. As I observe the natives, I fill out a journal. I figure if I can't be part of high school society, then I'll document my observations for future generations. My journal is divided into chapters. Chapter 1: How many days in a row can our football team not bring anything to class? No notebook, no pencils, no textbook. So far, they're up to 157. It technically should be 158 days in a row, but I had to give credit for the last Tuesday when Paul Dugan and Brian Worth came into class chewing a pencil eraser. I'm not nothing if I'm not fair. I also keep a running tally of how many times Steve Genow turns and smirks at me when I say something in class. Every single time. And of course, Al Tufts doesn't help the teams count as he digs in the garbage for a notebook paper. I usually give him credit for foraging, but he sometimes catches me watching him. I'm not sure if he's the president of the Who Thinks Apple's Weird fan club, but he's at least the secretary. It's a common fact that they give that job to the biggest dolt. I guess you could call some of these guys handsome if you're into that sort of thing. Of course, I could care less about them. I just wish they wouldn't always laugh. Foreign exchange students have feelings too. Back to my journal. Chapter 2. Does Marcia Glassglow, the queen of the twofers, wear the same outfit twice? This chapter really is more of an Excel graphing sheet with documents of Marcella's outfits. One thing I should be really good at is recognizing designer clothes. I may have no social life, but we're loaded thanks to my dad being a surgeon. So I have a pretty killer wardrobe. Except I sort of mix up designer chic with Walmart geek. But it seems to work for me. It may even be better than Marcia's outfits, but who's keeping track? Technically, I guess I am. Chapter 3. This is my favorite chapter so far. Top 10 secret moves to see if the teacher is watching you. If you must know, the top moves are the yawn, stretch, and turn your head move, the wipe your chin on your shoulder and look move, and then my personal favorite, the glance at the clock and quickly look at the teacher move. So far, after writing about these observations over the course of my high school career, I've learned about watching people, studying people, and analyzing their behavior. But I still can't figure out the one thing I really want. Where do I fit? Where do I belong? Last week at lunch, I found an empty table next to the founding members of the Twofers, Marcia Glassglow. She saw me trying to save my soupy applesauce from sliding next to my chicken nuggets. I might have freaked out a little bit. Okay, I hyperventilated. I hate when food touches. What's wrong with food segregation? Don't don't want my peas touching my pasta or my meatloaf mingling with my melon. Marcia watched me from the next table and giggled. It started to roll from that into an all-out eye crying, hold her chest, laughing hysteric. Oh my gosh, Apple, she yelled so everyone could hear her. What do you think you're doing? Keep your applesauce from touching you, a real apple. That's like cannibalism. Yeah, good one, Marcia. But of course, this is what sticks in people's minds. Whenever they see me at lunch now at school, which is why I sometimes eat in the closest next to the teacher's lounge, in the closet next to the teacher's lounge. Remind me to tell you some of the things I hear floating through the vents while they're eating. Whoa, some serious issues. And they're teaching us? Marcia, Queen of Mean, is the one person I try to avoid at school. I want to be invisible around her. Most times I can hide, but in the middle of the lunchroom on that horrible day last week, up bubbled one of my quirky questions. It's like the words simmer in my stomach and then bypass my mind, erupting over my tongue. Please, please, not now. Not the questions with her. I 18? I asked as applesauce dripped down my mouth. Excuse me, she shrieked. Her eyes were wild as they scanned the room to see who was watching. Before? Crud is happening again. Who knows what I even mean? Do I have Tourette's syndrome? Apple, you are one weird fruit. And with that, Marcia shook her head and dismissed my question and my existence. My humiliation is complete, but not quite. I saw someone sitting next to her who was chuckling at me. Most kids turn their attention back to the barf-tastic burrito lunch. Everyone except the football team. Must I always have witnesses for every humiliation?